She didn't want to come in?
No, good morning, everyone. Sorry we're a little bit late here. We had some technical problems anyway, so. But we will get the meeting going. I'll call the meeting to order. It is 9:11 a.m. Alan, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Sure, District 1. Here. District 2.
Here.
District 3 is here, Secretary Treasurer.
Here.
We have a quorum. Be good, Chumsy. Review and approval of the agenda.
We can ask districts.
Yeah, we'll also. Al, you have anything to add? Ray, you have anything to add?
Yeah, I do, but I can't think of, I know, our community council want to know if they can have a demolition derby and a little thing Pine Point had there, a little healing ceremony in their ball ground. And they want to know if we could pitch in a little money for it.
Okay, we'll add that to the agenda. Kathy or Ums?
Two, one thing I want to know is on boxing gym that hasn't got any repairs done forever. It used to be, we used it for a head start at one time and different things, but it needs a lot of work. And what they were talking about, we were there about 4 or 5. I went to the boxing meeting on Sunday, and I went to the one out at Thompson on Sunday. So I went to those 2 meetings, and we need COVA money to do that boxing, but I also want to deal with our homelessness.
Yeah, and I'll add that to it too, so to the agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all I have.
Okay, Ums?
Good.
Yeah.
I forgot I talked to Nicole about that hazard pay.
Okay, we can read that back, revisit that, huh? All right, we'll revisit the hazard pay, so.
Oh, I know that Mr. Chair also Jeff Clements got a deal wrote up. He wants to get on and read it today on what he thinks how we should go about with our homeless.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe we'll call him because he had 30 days, so we can call him into next week's meeting with his plan. Does that sound all right, Ray?
Well, that'll give him more time to work on, because he just kind of put it together pretty quick.
Yeah, and I wanted to address the homeless. I guess there was a news report that went out saying that we're not supporting nothing, we're not using no monies, and a lot of that is like we're still using the Bagley Motel. We gave it a 30-day extension, and the Human Service Director is going to bring a plan to us today, but we're going to hold off till next week, and he'll present the plan here at the meeting, and we'll go from there. So I know that we have something in the work, so we can maybe move our shelter from off the res to on the res. So hopefully we'll have more regulations to how we can manage that. So
Nobody's getting kicked out of the homeless shelter.
yeah, no one's getting kicked out either. So I wanted to address that too. So we go to council. All right. Motion to.
excuse me, 30 days, right?
Yeah, 30 days extension, but Ben's gonna come back with a plan. He'll come here next week. We'll have him on the agenda for next week, so. All right. Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Kathy, second by Al. All in favor? Motion carries.
One eye.
All right, review group, okay, there's no minutes. Now calendar review, I know, Maria said there's lots on the calendars.
Yeah, so we've got, the Department of Ag, the commissioner, would like to set up a virtual consultation. So
Yep.
he's got some dates. Wednesday, the 12th, between 11 and 1. Wednesday, the 19th, afternoon. Wednesday, the 26th in the afternoon.
No,
No? Monday, the 31st, they're open all day. Friday, September 4th, they're open all day.
Well, the 12th is good for me. How about you? Anybody else good?
Well,
12th?
12th at 11?
Yeah, that's fine. Next Wednesday.
And then Randy would like to set up a consultation with Commissioner is it Schnell?
Yeah,
Yep.
good.
He says, just give him a date and he'll make it happen.
Yeah, because these are all coming around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do all the commissioners. I know DHS, well, yesterday I called Commissioner Sarah Stromberg from the DRM about those water permits down at Wadena for RDO. So we have to get Monica on there too, because I know
Yeah.
that Wadena Counties is on our list too, and I don't know if we got any notifications that they were gonna do that without consulting with us. They're supposed
Would
to.
that be with this
Yeah,
department?
Sarah Stromberg, and they're supposed to consult with us before they issue those permits. Because there's a lot behind it, and I talked to Frank Bebo yesterday, and he said it'd be a good idea to talk to them to how we can find a solution for this. So, and I was like, we shouldn't be issuing these big, deep well permits for these big farms. They suck all the water up, and yeah, so so we're gonna have Commissioner Strom in here probably in the next week or two too. Liz will reach out to all of us for dates for that too, so. And Monica and Frank, and I did talk to Veronica too yesterday about it. She was I was getting to her office, and the commissioner called, and so I put her on speaker, so we're gonna meet real soon about that too. So council wants to be on those meetings. I'll send it to Liz.
a lot of people have arsenic in their wells. I'd like to set up a time for testing.
Okay. All right, guys, so that's one thing about that. Anything else on the conversation?
Yep, so the Department of Corrections, do you guys have a date that you would prefer to have that consultation?
What about 1 o'clock on Wednesday? You guys, how's your Wednesday look next week?
That's right.
1 o'clock work?
Yes.
12?
What day is that?
The
That'd
12th?
be at 12, so 1 o'clock.
1 p.m.
Because I think we got, like, how many commissioners are there? 20?
Yeah.
So we can just start knocking them.
Next water?
Water?
No, that'll
No.
be the
Department of
DOC.
Corrections.
DOCs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So their next available date is the 12th. They're having a groundbreaking. And they'd like to see if somebody can come, but maybe if it's in the morning, I suppose.
Where's that
This is for, what is this for? Is it Dow? Oh, yep. Dow.
What's that, Elders?
I'm trying to read this for some reason.
The program?
Oh, you for that, our real?
Yes, yep. Are real.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yes.
When's that?
Well, alternative date is the 12th.
Yeah.
You want to do it in the morning?
Yeah, 9 or 10 work.
9, 10 o'clock? Which one?
10
10.
10?
10 work.
Okay.
10?
Yeah.
groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking 10, okay.
And that's for Dove, right?
Yeah.
Dove is gonna be very busy.
Gaming Commission, RBC,
Mhm.
Thursday, August 20th?
Wednesday.
20th or 27th, so.
Why don't we put it on a different day than
Yeah,
an RBC meeting, so we ain't,
yeah,
Yeah, that gets too long.
Okay,
long day.
so you wanna do it on the gaming commission on the 20th, and then we won't do it.
I do like to listen to the Scott and them on their finances over there, so maybe a separate day. I just need them on that Friday. Cause I use that for my regular report for the month.
The 21st?
Yeah,
21st should work.
finance.
Gaming
meeting.
commission?
Yeah, gaming, finance.
Well, they should be open second phase or.
Yeah, gaming, finance.
So you want a gaming commission finance meeting? Okay.
The 21st.
Yep, 8/21, 9 AM, we'll do it.
9 o'clock?
Yeah.
Alright.
And then, that request from Pam Fairbanks to have that meeting out here.
Did you get more details on that, Beth?
I haven't gotten any details on it.
Mm,
She said the 10th or the 17th works.
The 10th or the 17th?
Which we also have Wash
Yeah,
also wants to have a meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock up at the
Yeah,
Polo Grounds.
I got it in my,
yeah.
And they want to talk about,
How about the 24th? Does that work? That'd be good, huh?
Need to watch at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
I
maybe?
got my at executive session, so I won't be there, so. What's she gonna talk about? I thought Liz was supposed to find out what she.
Yeah,
wanted to do.
Can we
so
do it
she
on the
wants to talk
24th?
about, so here's their agenda. So they wanted updates from the chairman, a district rep, they want Chief LaRock there. They want Clinton from behavioral health, mental health. And then they also invited, Monica and Bowman, because they want to talk about speed bumps, walking trails, and water quality.
Oh, can we do that on the 24th?
I know Mike can't make it. So,
24th or something? Is that okay?
Monday?
Yeah, it's like a Monday.
okay, I'll send her an email and let her know the 24th you guys can make it.
for who?
That Wash community meeting
Oh, the Pam one too. Can you do them both on the same day?
on the same day.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be good because then I've been getting a lot of calls from these community councils. That's where I sent that email yesterday that we should be freeing up the CARES dollars for community-based organizations, CBOs and community councils. It's just, they gotta go through that application process, same thing that we do, we gotta, put justifications on there, but I think if we open it up to some of these things for certain projects and certain things, I think it'd be a good thing. So maybe we can get more than just these two communities there, maybe invite some other community councils there. It'd be nice to have a really good discussion. That way we can bring that proposed resolution and we can get feedback from them at that meeting. And so what do you guys think of this? And if they like it, then, we can approve it later in the week.
Plus, I talked to Cindy Rosted there earlier this week, and she's pretty much got a secured grant for it. The 5 community councils that they will get like $4,800 a year
Wow.
to spend on whatever the community's needed, so.
For how
And then
long?
there's gonna be a meeting with Pine Point on next Tuesday, and then on the 11th, and then on the 12th, there's gonna be one in White with the White Community Council. I set that up yesterday, so.
So do you want?
So there will be some money spent in my district.
Is that gonna be on the 11th?
There's, the 11th is in Pine Point and the 12th is in Whitehurst. 6:30 PM on Pine Point and 7 PM in Whitehurst. And then she's trying to set up a meeting with the Wash Community Council and Monoma Community Council. So she'll be getting in touch to try to set those days up to.
And and move that from tomorrow at 2:00 down to the 24th.
But we'd like to get a big resolution ready for them.
Do you want to invite both of these groups to one meeting?
Yeah. Because a lot of those
Okay.
things that they want to address some COVID stuff, so it'd be nice to have a big resolution for them.
Okay.
So make sure and Ray, get a hold of Henry so we can get on there and get all the community councils, as many as we
Yeah.
can. so
Invite
we
them
can
all?
Invite them all, I mean.
Should we keep it mutable?
Well, maybe
Yeah, we gotta have a big enough space.
I mean, it all depends on what Pam's, she's actually not the community council, so,
No, she's not.
Well, you could open it up to community members as well.
yeah.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be good.
So just to let you all know too, that we are getting, hammered on that new building that was supposed to open up in May, and there's still nothing in there. People are saying we spend all this money and all it does is sit there with nobody in there.
All
So
they're
I don't
waiting,
know what.
all they're waiting for is furniture.
Moving and make,
All they're waiting for is furniture.
huh?
All they're waiting for is furniture.
Yeah. And I did talk with, Kim Scott and told her that she needs to
Keep moving.
make that a priority and get that done, so.
Shouldn't take that long. You know, like then.
Okay, anything else? We got people up here waiting.
All right, so we gotta set those up for the 24th.
We good, Maria, on the calendar? Okay, we good.
Did we approve the agenda? Did we? Oh.
All right, should we bring Veronica?
Is she out there?
No, I'm by phone.
Oh,
okay.
did you get my text?
No.
Oh,
Did you want me down here?
yeah, well, or you can give your report, but then come down, there's a,
Oh, yep, no, I'm reading your text. But yeah, sorry I didn't see that. My phone was on silent because I didn't want to be interrupted during the meeting. Sorry, my apologies. But yeah, I can give the update about the IRS stuff, and then I can come down, to discuss that other thing.
Okay.
Yeah, just come down and do it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, just
It'd be
come down,
easier.
Ronnie.
There might be questions.
Okay. Okay, I will be on my way.
Pat, she up there?
I hope so. I will. Maria Clark.
Did you guys get that email on that mass, Scott's trying to set up a training for that Oneida case? Oneida versus, you remember what that was, Liz? Well, what happened is Oneida won a case and it just talks about strengthening our sovereignty within our borders.
Mhm.
So it gives us, it's gonna give us all this more authority within our borders.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Maybe have a good little thing.
yeah, and I think that's what I talked to, so, well, he's having some dates out there for all of Mass to, if you wanna phone in and have questions. No, he gave, there was an email, I'll send it to Liz and then, you can distribute to everyone and pick it. pick a date what works best for all of us, and then, okay, go ahead, Veronica.
Okay, can you hear me, Ray?
Yep.
Okay. So I am providing an update about the audits and investigations that we did regarding Star Lake and the Circle of Life Academy. So I ended up providing those documents, the results of those investigations, to the IRS. They have a section of tribal, they have a section that's related to tribal organizations, I would say, tribal governments, and they have a reporting system for suspected abusive schemes. And so that was the purpose of providing those to them, just for their review and their advice, and just to make sure that everything is fine following those investigations and audits. And then actually, so the IRS called me back yesterday to get some follow-up information from the information that I submitted. I sent that on July 24th, and the IRS confirmed receipt on July 27th. And then, like I said, the IRS called yesterday, and I spoke to the current investigator who's on that. I spoke to her a couple times yesterday, actually, and she said that she was able to get through all the documents yesterday. And then with the follow-up information that I provided to her, she's still reviewing it. And then once she's done with her review, it'll go to a specialist for their starting points. And then depending on what the allegations are in both COLA and then Star Lake, they get assigned a specialist, and then those specialists will do the investigating and the looking into. So right now we're still in preliminary stages on that. So there's not really a whole lot to update. And yeah, other than that, they requested information about who our financial investigator is for Waiter. And so I did get that information yesterday, and I'll provide that to the IRS as well. But just for like coordinating efforts and things. And then at some point, I assume once it gets assigned to the specialist is when they'll start really digging deeper and looking into a lot more things. So I think at some point we can expect the IRS to be working with us pretty closely. Sorry, I really ran down here, so I'm a little bit out of breath.
What's this Oneida case Mike was talking about?
You know, the Oneida case about sovereignty, remember we talked about, I don't know if it's not too much or not, but
Oh,
Mass putting out a like training on it, on the implementations of the case, Oneida versus Mass is going to do a training, so.
Okay.
It's just like it strengthens our sovereignty within our borders. Oneida one.
Yeah, Frank, he would know that pretty good too, you know, because we were talking with him last night, and he's working on trying to get some legislation for Sandy Lake with Colin there. And so he wanted to do, see if he can get some legislation before the election happens, you know. Yeah, at least get it in the hopper, he was saying, you know. That'd be nice. But then they wanted to know what's going on with this land transfer stuff. And so I just said, well, as far as I know, we're just kind of in a standstill. Isn't it how you acted up?
Okay, that'll be good.
Sure. Thanks, guys. Sorry, I was confused
You'll bring
about.
back more information as you get it too.
Yes, yep. I'm really usually pretty communicative. She contacted me yesterday, so I didn't have a whole lot of chance to update you all. But yeah, so and when she confirmed her receipt, it was last week. So things have been kind of hectic, obviously, the last couple weeks. But yeah, as we know more, I'll be in touch with you all too, to make sure that you all have that information too, so that there's no significant surprises.
Pat's out there.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, we'll see you.
Do you want to do it or you want?
What's that?
Amy Klobuchar wants to call us.
You wanna do it on this?
I don't care.
Can we get Amy on
Is that
there?
the call that Barb is on?
Yeah. Well, is that just for White Earth or is that a whole bunch of people?
Mm,
Did Barb text you, know? Let's text her and see what's going on.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it's,
And then we'll put her on the speaker or put her on the phone and talk to her.
yeah.
Who got that grant in? It was due yesterday.
Okay.
That one for, we got $1 million at, housing. 100 million.
Oh, I didn't get that much.
No, but
But-
did we get some?
Oh, you mean for the, what was that grant they were working on?
That's that home improvement thing for the authorization.
Yeah. No, it's part of the governor's, remember he issued out 100 million for homeless, or not homeless, it was like for paying rent.
Yeah, well,
Because we applied on this side and then I think housing applied too.
Well,
You
they
wanna-
got-
No, they didn't.
they got DW Jones trying to kick people out of their homes now. I asked Ronnie, I said, can they be kicking people out? And the governor issued no evictions, but they're still trying to kick people out of there.
Mhm.
Well, me and Umsey worked on that one and it's just like, they get way behind, they don't fill out paperwork for the
Welcome to
subsidies.
Unified Conferencing.
And
Please enter your conference ID,
they,
followed by the pound
they get
sign.
way behind.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars behind, and that's what me and Umsey were working on that last week and trying to help her out.
If you're a participant.
I gave her
please
information
press
for the
pound
homeless program and other programs. I know there is programs that would help out with $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, but she was like beyond that, so I know that, and I know what happened is the eviction came from our own court.
You are now joining the meeting.
So,
Yeah.
can't we issue a eviction standby or something? The tribe, can we do that?
Maybe somebody talk to Veronica about bringing her back in again or talk to her later this afternoon and ask her if we could do something like that for now, but and I don't know how these elders up there.
Chairwoman Javers, Kathy Javers. Oh, very good. Thank you, Chairwoman, and for Bonduak. Chairman Duty from Bonduak. Oh, thank you, Chairman, for being on. From Grand Portage. Chairwoman on.
We don't have the Grand Portage on, but we do have
Okay,
Lake
you guys,
and
no problem, but could you let her know something, and that is that I followed up already with the Canadian ambassador. She had talked about on our last call about the obvious lack of customers at the casino, and we had like a 20-minute, half-hour talk about a bunch of things. Trudeau's ambassador and I raised this as we look at border opening, as they look at between the two countries. This is probably gonna have to wait for Biden, right, but maybe not. How we sort of start opening them up a little and how we could do this. And I raised the casino because she had raised it, all right?
okay,
In a good way.
we have Prairie Island, and we have Red Lake, we have Shakopee, and we have, I don't think White Earth has joined yet.
Yeah,
The others on the
Chairman Fairbanks is here.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
East Lake Chairman Ben Jackson's here.
Of course. Thank you. I just used the Leach Rec story about broadband on the Senate floor and mentioned you guys.
Great.
Okay? Okay? Is that it? Okay, all right. So I'll just summarize sort of the questions that we remembered from last time. Brian will chime in and you guys should chime in with follow-up questions. So the first one was tribes that received funding from the $8 billion provided in the CARES Act under the Coronavirus Relief Fund need to spend it before December 31st, 2020. So that was one problem with the money to get that extended. And then the second one was there were too many restrictions, including not allowing for lost revenue. And the question, can we extend the deadline and provide more flexibility? So that's all correct. That deadline is December 31st. In the HEROES Act would keep that deadline in place, unfortunately, but we will continue to negotiate that. But it would not place a deadline on the travel fund. And we would be very careful of that. But now, this doesn't mean we can't negotiate a better deal for the CARES Act money. And so we're going to try to do that. This is a good thing, the lost revenue.
Mute his phone.
has been added in the House bill, making up for lost revenue past the House as part for the old money. So that's good, the money already got. So that's a really important thing, and it's not just important for you guys, that's why you're part of the city and local government thing. It's gonna be important for everyone. Tim Wall cares a lot about being able, for the new money we may get, being able to use it for lost revenue. So we're gonna, my guess is we will be part and parcel of whatever deal is worked out on the lost revenue, but as I said, it's a good sign that that's already passed the House. And the Republicans are hearing the same thing from cities and states on that issue. So let's go to the deadline. The Senate Republican proposal extends the deadline for the use of CARES Act funds for 90 days after the end of your travel year. There you got it, the Republicans. So that is helpful. So we'll want to make sure that stays in there. However, they don't include any new funding. The Senate Republican proposal allows up to 25% of CARES Act funding to be used to replace lost revenue, but only for a limited amount of time, which is March 1st through the end of the fiscal year. And by the way, you might be like, oh, why are the Republicans being so nice to us about this with the extension? Well, it's because they didn't want to add any new funding, you see. So that's what this little, it's more complicated than you might think. It's a negotiation to make sure you get new funding, but then of course we also agree we should extend the deadline on the old funding. So those things are really at play in the negotiations, and some of it will be done, the total amount of money will be probably negotiated and announced as some kind of base deal if they can get an agreement. But a lot of these details, as they say, the devil will be in the details, will be done in the week after. So that's when we really go crazy in terms of advocating for these things. But what we want is the use of lost revenue for everybody, for the cities, the states, and you guys. Okay, Brian, did I mess up any of that?
Nope, that was exactly right.
What is he gonna say? Okay. Did people have questions of Brian or me about that issue?
Senator Klobuchar, this is Kathy Chavers from Boysport. Our Chief Financial Officer this morning brought up the fact that the Treasury Office sent out a reporting requirements update, and it's called the Treasury Office of Inspector General Coronavirus Relief Fund Reporting Requirements Update. It's OIG-CA-20-025. And within that it's basically telling us how we have to report on the CARES Act money.
Yeah.
On page 5 of that report, it has on page 5 of that report, it has reporting timeline, and there's 6 cycles, and the ending cycle on that says that the money being reported on for the last cycle is 9/30/2021. So it's confusing in this report because we're hearing we have to have it spent by 12/30, or that's leaving a lot of questions for our CFO here. I think we need our clarification on that.
Okay.
I can take a look at that. I'm not sure, maybe the Treasury, I know the Treasury Department's been doing a lot of, I think to try to bolster some of the Republican argument here, they're trying to point out that some of this funding hasn't been spent during negotiations. So I think that might be just a deadline to report, to the Treasury Department when, kind of how much of the funding you've actually spent. But I can double check on that. I've got the report number.
And I remember you guys raising this reporting issue. It's been raised across a lot of different people, not just tribes, with the problems with that. So hopefully we can get this clarified or changed.
Great.
And Brian is right, guys. There's this big tension they're trying to point out in the negotiations. You guys haven't spent your old funds, not just for tribes, for everyone. Elections, everything. You haven't spent your old funds. Why should we give you new funds? And then we come back and say, well, because this all just happened, and they're putting out. Anyway, and we want to be careful about getting new funds at the same time we are changing the definition of how the old funds can be spent and the deadline.
Chairman Siki, I'd like to make a comment to you.
Yep.
Is this a senator?
Yeah, this is me, Chairman. Yeah.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm really good.
Yeah, I'm okay. I just want to make a comment because I got another call at 10 o'clock. We want to thank you for all you have done and continue to support tribes during the coronavirus pandemic. The two most important programs which enable tribes to protect their members and provide vital services are the Indian Health Service and the Bureau of Indian Affairs Operation of Indian Programs. Funding for IHS and BI is also the quickest and most efficient way to get needed resources into our tribal communities. We appreciate that the Senate HEALS Act includes $1.6 billion for IHS, but it includes nothing for BI Operation of Indian Programs. The recent House-passed HEALS Act includes $2.1 billion for IHS and $900 million for BI Operation of Indian Programs, including a much-needed $100 million for tribal housing needs. These BI funds are critical to tribes' abilities to quickly respond to the ongoing threats of the coronavirus and protect their tribal communities. We respectfully request that negotiations for the final funding bill, there was House amounts of $2.1 billion for IHS, $900 million for BIA operations of Indian programs be included. Also, number two, I want to raise another issue. The HEALS Act includes $500 million for fisheries disaster assistance, with language that the Secretary of Commerce shall prescribe a formula to proportionally divide the fund between states, tribes, and territories. The problem is that under the previous CARES Act, the Secretary excluded inland fisheries from eligibility, including all tribal freshwater fisheries in the Great Lakes region and others throughout Indian country. Great Lakes operates the oldest and largest freshwater commercial fishery in America. We have incurred economic losses due to COVID-19. There must be a specific language in the HEALS Act directing the Secretary to include tribal freshwater commercial fisheries in apportionment formula. Otherwise, the Secretary will again cheat tribes.
Got it. Agree. I'm aware of this issue, and we've been working with, I'm on the Commerce Committee, so I've been working with Senator Cantwell, who's been good on tribal issues in Washington State, and we are trying to get the Indian Affairs Committee to sit down with our committee, to sit down and talk about the fact that the Great Lakes and other non-coastal fisheries are able to get support, because the Senate Republican proposals, there were problems with the CARES Act, but the Senate Republican proposal is even worse because it targets the fisheries money to states in the Gulf region. It's a play to help certain states and not others. So we are trying to include language in this next bill that would not be specific to waterways or regional bodies of water, but rather based on coronavirus-related losses. I hope that that would work for you, because that would be more generic and it wouldn't just focus on certain bodies of water. Is the, if the fishery, like the fishery at Red Lake, is considered part of the Great Lakes fishery, or is it separate? I don't know if we know an answer to that. Well, we'll try to figure it out.
Senator Klobuchar, this is Holly. I'm not sure if the chairman is still on. It is not considered part of the Great Lakes Basin or the Great Lakes Fisheries area, but we are the only tribal fishery regulated by the Secretary of Interior, which would distinguish us. And Senator Stabenow has that language as well, and I think I sent it to Brian.
Okay, good. So we have to make sure that the distinguished, we're in a unique situation, so we're going to have to lobby for it ourselves. I guess.
Yeah, this is Chairman Siki. I'm still on that.
Okay.
I'm going to answer the question. Yeah, the tribes need the flexibility too to any relief funds to provide the lost revenues from our tribal enterprises. I know I heard you talking about that earlier. This pandemic will continue for many more months, and the lost revenue from gaming in particular has been devastating. So I know I heard you saying 25% by the Republicans are lost revenue.
Got it. Okay. Other questions that were raised the last time is, can we extend the deadline for the census so that tribal governments aren't undercounted? We know that's part of the Constitution. We've had some developments on that since our call, in that the administration has announced they're actually sliding back a month. They're making it worse. They're counting for less than a month. And I talked to Senator Schatz from Hawaii about this, because he's one of the leaders on this on our Commerce Committee. That Commerce Committee has jurisdiction over the census. And he said that particularly the tribal areas have not been counted yet. So this is very dismaying, and we're trying to push back, and we have an opportunity in the HEROES Act. I raised this with Senator Schumer yesterday, and right now the Republicans are pushing, because we could extend the time of the census to even later, to say you have to submit all your numbers by April instead of the end of the year, and then Trump doesn't have total control over it. So I'm going to be part of an effort with Senator Schatz to ask to get an extension for the census deadline. Okay? That's where we are. Meanwhile, I would strongly urge all of you to start getting people to sign up for the census, however you're going to do it, because there is a chance they're now moving it back from, when is it? No, it's done on November to October.
They're moving the election deadline from the end of October to the end of September.
End of September. They're going to limit elections to the end of September. And if we can't get that changed in the next week or two, that's what it is. So you just don't have a lot of time. You've got to get your people to fill out the census. I just did it online, and it takes like 5 minutes, but I was afraid I was going to be asked by you guys. And so it takes like 5 minutes, but remember 40% of Americans have not filled it out yet, so they are not alone. And you've got these numbers you got to get to fill it out. So you got to get those things out, and just go door to door and have people fill them out. I would make that a priority, because if we can't get this extended, they've now moved it up to the end of September. And if you know, it matters for funding and things like that. And so we will be in touch if we get an extension. Then the last thing I remember being raised on the call was the Treasury Department included Alaska Native corporations as eligible entities to receive coronavirus relief funds, despite the fact that they are for-profit corporations and not self-governing tribes. Can Congress change the definition in this next package? It is correct, that was correct, the Treasury Department's definition for that money in the CARES Act, the old money, because that's not the new money we're talking about now, originally included the Alaska Native Corporation, even though they're for-profit. Lawsuits were filed, I think that was pointed out on the call, to prevent them from receiving up to $162 million in funding, but in June, a district court ruled that they were eligible to receive funds. The House HEROES Act, that would be the one that passed with the Democratic support in the House, including our members there, would change the definition so that Alaska Native corporations would be stopped from receiving funds meant for tribal governments. Well, which is what you guys want, I believe. But the Trump administration, and especially Senators Murkowski and Sullivan from Alaska, are opposed to changing the definition. So this is key. I'm glad you raised it, because it's part of the negotiation. So we are in discussions with the Schumer office to bolster them so they make this an issue like the Speaker did, and we try to get at least a compromise that's better, if not the House definition. Okay? But remember, the Trump administration has to sign off on this deal. That is our problem with the election funding and everything else. Okay.
Hi, Amy. This is Keith Anderson with the Shakopee, Metawakan, and Dakota community. It's full council. Hi, Amy. How are you? I've got Vice Chairman Cole Miller and Rebecca Crooks-Stratton, our Secretary Treasurer, as well as our legal counsel, Willie Hardacker. You know, all of the parameters that you're raising as far as getting the HEROES Act off the ground is definitely a challenge for you. The Treasury putting out a report request
and lack of direction to how to spend that money. And then the comment that you made that we haven't spent the old funds is probably because that guidance isn't there. There isn't one size that fits all plan that tribes have to follow.
Right.
So who better to know how to spend this money than each tribal government? And it's essential that the HEROES Act allow tribes to use 100% of that CARES Act money to replace lost or diminished revenues. When you completely shut the tap off, the expenses don't go away, of course. And when you're replacing lost or diminished revenues to cover those expenses, I mean that should just be a given. I also would like to make a comment that we will continue to push for the Tribal Labor Sovereignty Act until it's passed by Congress and signed into law. And I was very disappointed in finding out there wasn't a lot of support where we thought there was.
Okay, I don't know if that's part of these negotiations right now, but I will inquire. And I think that the key is right now is with the money and making sure that you're able to access these funds, because I think what they did was wrong. I didn't agree with it. I promise we're negotiating with the White House, but I have been advocating strongly for you being able to use the funds from the old CARES money as well as whatever new funds we get to make up for lost revenue. That's our number one ask. And that number two, that we're able to extend the deadline on the old money. And they're both of the things that are at play because the states really care about this too. And the Republicans both of them using lost revenue at least. You can see that in their proposals that they put out, and they've been open on the deadline issue. So that's a very key part of the negotiations that are going on right now as we speak.
If you just look at the size of the amount of the money that's been put out there, there can be no other reason for that type of size. To replace money that we're costing you from the coronavirus isn't presented itself until after those lost or diminished revenues.
Exactly. And that's why I think people have realized that. Remember, that bill was smashed together to get the money right away, and mistakes were made. Let's leave it at that. So now we have the opportunity of hindsight, no matter what we think of Trump and everything they're doing, it gives us this opportunity to go back in and see what the problems are. And the reason I was emphasizing the states and we'll both share your interests, that's a good thing. You don't want to be out there by yourself. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Amy, this is Chairman Dupuy from Condo Line.
Yeah,
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Sort of. I'm good.
I have another meeting just like probably some of the other tribal leaders on the phone. I just like to say for what you guys are doing, and we appreciate that very, very much. Can we get a brief summary sent to us today on the information that was given on this call?
Sure.
Yeah, Chairman, I'm happy to send that around to anyone who's interested right after the call.
Okay, one other thing, and I know a lot of tribal leaders that speak a whole lot more eloquently than I do. I'm just going to say it. From the beginning of the onset of this, Fond du Lac said the argument, and I've talked to all the tribal leaders about this. So anytime there's appropriations of revenue for the tribes, there's always a delay on it. And to find the formulas to disperse that equally to the tribes is the biggest problem. And we know that everything is slammed together and to put it out there. And now this report that comes out to the restrictions that are there with the revenue and the reporting form. This is the same stuff that has been going on for a very, very long time. And we really, really need to figure out a way to fix this. Because the only ones it only affects us. It doesn't affect any other group of people on the planet but us. And then with this revenue that comes from the United States government, it only affects us in this manner. And we have to find a way to fix this. And to Chairman Anderson said, the ones who know how to spend this money is us. We've proven to everybody that we know how to spend the money. We've proven to everybody that we have the ability to do that. But there's a point in time that this really looked at in that manner. So it's the exact same thing Chairman Anderson has been saying, and all tribal leaders that are on this call. Give us the tools, give us the resources, and we'll take care of ourselves. And we have the ability to do that. And when we walk into problems or issues like this, we end up fighting sometimes amongst each other, and I'll say openly that under federal law, it also states that tribal organizations and Alaska Native corporations can receive revenue or services from the United States government. They already knew that. They already knew that. When they put this money together, they put us at the point that we're fighting against one another. They are indigenous people also. But what it was worded as effectively recognized tribes. They already knew that. And that's the problem with all. And we really, really need to get to the table and fix this issue so we don't fight amongst ourselves. But most importantly, give us the tools and resources that the United States government is bound to by law, and we'll take care of ourselves. Which free time.
Very good. And the one thing I agree with everything you said about how they have always tried to mess around. There's an enormous history that people could write huge books about, as we know from back in time, from the very beginning. And then this has continued. But the one thing that has changed is I think that there is a growing Native American community in Congress. And in local governments across the country. I think that's been helpful. And the second thing on some of this stuff, one of your strengths is actually the cities and states did get treated the same way. They're not as directly hit by it. They've got other sources, but they got treated the same way on the lost revenue. So the Walls' number one thing right now is just like yours to get the money for the lost revenue for the state of Minnesota. And that's what Mayor de Blasio wants, and that's what Cuomo wants in New York. And so that's why this is such a huge negotiation. And what I'm saying is the good thing is that we can negotiate it across the board, that you will be the beneficiary of that. And we just got to make sure that the deadline issue also gets taken care of and that you aren't somehow carved out and treated worse, as has happened in the past. And then I think you have many other unique issues, of course, with as you were describing with the definition of tribe, that is, people are working on compromise on this as we speak. And then was raised earlier, the Bureau of how the money is spent on other Indian health and other things, the LM that we have to work out. The deadline on the census does uniquely affect you because you're more spread out. It's just harder to get people to do it, but we've got to rise to this occasion and get people to fill out the census form. And then the fishery issue, again, to me, that feels like a bad carve out where we got screwed. So we're trying to fix that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything more? I think I've got it. You hear all that noise that's next to my apartment building. There's big construction going on here. Hilarious. So I am going to go over to the Senate to vote, but I wanted to thank you so much. Brian is on top of all this. Elizabeth Eva from our state office, I believe, is on the call, and Doug, our legislative director, and Elizabeth Farah is with me, who is our deputy chief of staff. So everyone's informed of these issues, and we're ready to help you. And I think part of this, you'll figure out, Brian, how you get this information as it's ongoing. If there's some base deal that's reached over the next few days, I think they want to know how it affects them, and then what issues are still outstanding. That will be the key, right? What things are we still going to be pushing for that will be negotiated, the language, which we know is so important, that will end up in the final deal that we vote on. Okay? All right, and anyway, so there we go. I'm getting ready for the Democratic Convention. I'm going to be doing stuff there, even though it's virtual. And we've got a lot going on, but I really am glad we were able to do this follow-up call, and you all got out of me. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
What's the next one? I got Brian's number, so I'll reach out to Brian and Liz and get those. The questions I had for her was just on some of the telehealth and the four walls. So I know that's something that we have to keep on the charts for. So. Yeah, the four walls issue is going to be huge enough. And I'll reach out to Brian or Liz and have them.
Four walls,
yeah. All right, you ready for IHS? IHS. That one, gravel. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Sorry, I apologize for your wait. So we had a meeting with Amy Klobuchar, so it just we did put that in our itinerary. So.
Well, thank you for having us here. I'm Maria Clark. I'm going to just take my mask off so you recognize me. I'm the new CEO. I got here June 8th and learned a lot in 2 months. So I really appreciate this opportunity to present as best as I can. But of course, we all have our own entourage. So if there's any questions, I'm going to either defer to Laura or OEH. So I have a couple PowerPoints just to follow along. That.
No.
Yeah, if you could pass those down. Mostly I didn't make a whole lot.
Can't we email these to all of us and also raise them?
Okay, yeah, hold on. Yeah, I'll email them. Actually, I'll email them right after because I emailed them to myself because I wasn't sure about the whether I was going to do a PowerPoint or handouts or both. So here in this first slide, it's not as pretty as the other one. Kind of put together some bullet points showing the benefits of joint venture, and if there's any questions, feel free to interrupt and ask. So joint venture started out as an initiative put in place to assist the IHS and the tribes to fast track the backlog of replacement facilities that IHS is not able to meet due to historic and chronic funding challenges the IHS and tribes experience. It considers those facilities not otherwise identified as a replacement facility. So in this case, Nato Wash is not identified as a replacement facility. And because of that, the joint venture program is available. There is also this small ambulatory program out of Indian Health Service that's also available. So this is the route that the tribe and IHS decided to go as far as Nato Wash. So IHS will submit requests to Congress for funding for staff, operations, and maintenance of the facility per the joint venture agreement. And it authorizes IHS to establish joint venture projects under which tribes would acquire, construct a health facility, and lease it to the IHS at no cost for a period of 20 years. Participants in this competitive program, so it is very competitive. So on the list, you might see 3 or 4 facilities that have been approved in the year, but there might be 40 or 50 applicants. I'm not sure how many happens each year. So it is very competitive. Since 1992, joint venture facilities built is 23 with 21 completed since the year 2000. 15 facilities which are fully funded by IHS are decades old on the priority list, and I put priority list in quotations. 6 are fully funded right now, 7 are partially funded, and when this happens, when they're on this priority list for fully funded IHS facility, it may take 20 years, and then they have to do the PJD again, the project justification document. And so I'm just trying to show the difference between an IHS fully funded facility and a joint venture. And I have a priority list. And when I was at the Albuquerque Service Unit, I had to work on the PJD for that. And that was a revision. So I have experience with some of the being on the priority list for Albuquerque. And I'm just going to take, because I get hot when I talk and with this mask on. But I think it was 15 years since the first PJD for the replacement facility of Albuquerque had happened. And then they had to update it because it had already run out. The time had run out, and because it hadn't been built yet. So we had to do it again. We did it again, I think it was in 2005 for Albuquerque. And here we are in 2020, and I think they're not even in the planning stage of funding Albuquerque. Or maybe that's the partially funded is the planning and design. I'm not sure because I'm not there anymore, but I'm just saying it just takes so long, and we have a huge advantage here. So the next slide you see, and I got this off the website. The website for IHS under facilities, I was really surprised. I don't visit the IHS website often, but when I do, it was a great surprise to see NATO Wash #1 here. So this is just the first 5 facilities. And so you see 4 here in 2016 that were approved by IHS, and then WW Hastings here was 2015. I'm not sure if WW Hastings has been built yet, has it, or on the process? I'm just curious.
I think that's in process.
It's in process, okay. So that was 2015. So joint venture here on the next slide was approved, NATO Wash was approved by IHS in 2016. So you'll see that we're first in line for the new facility under joint venture. The joint venture does include permanent IHS funding for 67 positions. So 44 of those positions will go straight to NATO Wash, and 24, the remainder, will be support at White Earth. This is based on the plans that we had done back in 2000, well, before 2016 anyway.
Probably
so
14.
Probably 14, yes. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at an average salary of $98,000 or $4.3 million total. So when we say that IHS is paying up to 85% of staffing, they're going to fund 85%. So of that is $3.7 million guaranteed from IHS. Right now, our service unit includes all those facilities, and we're funded at 27%. So the next, not the next, but the remainder of that 73% is coming from revenue. So we're having to supplement that. This would greatly help. The staffing funding would greatly help the service unit. And if the tribe ever decides, like say in the next 5 years, to 638 the rest of their programs, that funding would automatically go to the tribe under 638. So it's part of that 106A amount for 638. So the construction was scheduled for spring of 2021. And IHS would fund those 67 new positions. That would begin as soon as the project is complete. I do want to say, and it's on the next thing, but I do want to say that the White Earth Service Unit has already opened NATO Wash, the existing facility, Monday through Friday, full-time, which includes some of these 44 positions, maybe not all of them, of course, but we're using our revenues to fully, not fully fund, but I should say fully operate NATO Wash right now. The concern is that we are 18 months behind, which will impact the IHS funding for the 67 new positions as increases for staffing will stall. So let's just say we open the new NATO Wash clinic October 2022. That's a full year of funding that we would get. And we would also get in 2022 any increases from Congress on top of those salaries. But if we don't open until say 2023, then it's still whatever it is at that point. We wouldn't get that recurring amount that was funded in 2022 to cross over into 2023. Just giving you, so we lose out on those increases. And stop me if I'm wrong in any of this analogy, but that's my understanding. But so the other thing, I don't know if some of you remember in 2012, there was a rescission that Indian Health Service had to do against our budgets. So money was actually taken away from tribes and from Indian Health Service, and it really impacted us greatly. And with COVID, it's uncertain where we're going to be economy-wise, you know, based on how things are going to be going. You know, we have an election that's coming up. So there's some dynamics that might impact some of the decision-making on Congress, and they may pick on us, so to speak, as IHS, and say, well, you know, they don't need this money, you know, they have plenty of money, and they, you know, so we don't know what's going to happen, and so we always want to prepare for the worst, and we don't want to get hit with any rescissions, of course. And that kind of surprised us back in 2012 when they did hit us with some rescissions. Next is joint venture, the expansion of services, of course. This is a huge benefit. So the new NATO Wash facility includes space to increase access for community members, such as the drive-through pharmacy. Our drive-up pharmacy right now, or curbside, is very popular right now. And we are building with the new construction here. That's just, it's going to be a great, easy transition for our patients to go into the drive-through. White Earth Behavioral Health and Public Health are co-located in the new facility. I don't know if there's other programs, but I highlighted behavioral health and public health. On-site physical therapy and occupational therapy, as opposed to coming all the way down here, you know, for PT and OT. Same with lab and radiology, that would be on-site. And it would be also closer to any future services that we do. So for Rice Lake, for example, we've been discussing some services being provided there at Rice Lake. So they wouldn't have to come all the way from Rice Lake down to White Earth anymore. They could go directly to NATO Wash for these services. And it's my understanding it's 10 miles away, maybe 12 miles away. So the future services for communities in the north and the western areas of the White Earth Reservation. So it's my understanding that NATO Wash is more centrally located and right now for more of your northern and western communities to access it. So it's ideal. Same with Rice Lake. And we just see a huge potential in increased number of patient visits, certainly a patient experience, improved health outcomes. Transportation is always an issue. So the less we have to transport, the less we have to, you know, farther to go. You know, we're all about increased access, and that includes access to transportation. So in the next slide, joint venture, we increase access to health services for community members. We did staff NATO Wash full-time starting a couple years ago. And the I already mentioned the increase in health outcomes and improved patient experiences, whereas they don't have to drive so far to White Earth for the ancillary services. We did increase revenues by 27% already by going full-time. So we've already realized some of that potential, not entirely, because we don't have the new facility yet and not all the services are there yet. So the potential is absolutely huge for revenue. We anticipate increased revenues when joint venture is complete, which will further allow additional services and staff. So not just the 44 staff that we're talking about that comes with the staffing initially in the joint venture project, but additional staff as we earn more than that 27% increase in revenues. Of course, this increased economic development from construction to permanent job opportunities for the community. So I hear you have colleges here, so we can grow our own, in the community, offer scholarships, not IHS, but there are IHS scholarships that are available. But the tribe, I'm sure, has scholarships that they can, but we'd love to see our own community members being hired. And then joint venture will allow for easy transition for the tribe to expand its 638 program. So you're establishing a foundation for your own 638 programs. And lastly, joint venture is already approved. We don't have to go through any more hoops. And it's ready to move forward. We just need to move forward with a decision. And the likelihood, again, I said, of IHS being funded by Congress to build Nadawash on its own will not be likely for 250 years. Because we're not on a replacement list, and they're not doing those anymore. It's my understanding. IHS is not doing any new lists. But this timeline would not allow for preparing for healthcare services and needs for 7 generations. So I'm thinking, your grandkids, their grandkids, so on and so forth, Our little ones right now, they're going to be growing up fast, and we all know they grow up fast, and we'll be having families of their own. The Nadawash project would lose its place in line for a new facility as it is not on the IHS list for replacement, as I mentioned. Now, the other handout we had, here. I think you've seen this, but it's updated, right? And did you want to go ahead and talk on that a little bit?
Yes, it's basically similar information. We had presented this to council as an update. I think this one was from about a year ago. And all we did is really just updated the dates and the dates should construction move forward, that we'd be looking at that October 2022 construction completion. But mainly just an informational packet, very similar to what Maria presented, some of the dates that I know council's aware of and information in there that you've all seen. So I'm just open for any questions or that we hope to answer today, or any concerns.
Yeah, I guess the question, I know Al was asking about the Rice Lake project, and he was mentioning that, he had some mixed communications that Rice Lake was not going to be built, and I mentioned to him last week that we approved it in our supplement budget through CARES Act. So, and what I mentioned to him that there'd be more services that'll be closer to Rice Lake than like X-ray and some of those lab stuff that need to get done, so they're driving all the way to White Earth. And I guess one of the things we were mentioning too about that 2012, and I remember that because I remember that when there was the union, it was the IHS union, that they had to, IHS had to reimburse the union because of wages or something, I think it was. I'm not sure you guys remember that year. And then all the service units, all direct service units of their coffers. What do you call your guys' coffers? Like
Appropriations?
No, like your savings, where you guys bank your money.
Oh, yeah, carryover.
Your carryover funds, yeah, they came in and took your carryover funds to pay that union back. And when you just said that, is that you had no choice, you couldn't say no to them because we're Title I or direct service. So they came in, and you mentioned that, and then it says that when they came in and took your funds to pay the union, that they'll never pay back. It'll never come back for it.
No, the rescission won't either. So the rescission was across the board, and we, the direct service tribes and even some of the tribes that didn't have those carryover funds or the funds from revenue to draw off of, to sustain themselves through continuing resolutions. And we had, then we had the rescission. Some folks had to work through the continuing resolution, as essential employees. And so that was probably where the union issue came up. I worked for a tribe at that time in 2012, and we could probably only run for 3 months off of our revenues, but that was still $1 million that we didn't get back off the rescission, and it impacts you. So I don't know. I'm not trying to put any kind of, I don't have a crystal ball, of course, but it's happened before. And I'm saying, and in 2012, I don't know if that was a result of what we were into as far as the wars, or if it was the economy. I don't really know the rationale behind that rescission, but it did impact us quite negatively across the board. And I'm just saying, if it happened then, it might happen again, because our economy is just really, because of COVID, is just not.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you explained earlier too, is the staffing packages, and that's the thing that we looked at in the PowerPoint, is the return on investment. We invest 14 million, it says 16 here, but we have already the water and sewer built in already. So the 20 years that we're going to get from the feds is 6.5 million a year, which is equivalent to $130 million. So I mean, it's like a grant that we match at a certain percent, 15 or 20%, and this is what we're doing now, is we're kind of looking at investing into our community, investing into our reservation, that, and I think the return on investment is something that's going to help us right at the get-go, because even like we talked about earlier, the COVID in the shortfalls, and we just got the call with Senator Klobuchar and the staff, and many of the reservations out there, including Red Lake and ones that are around us in Leech Lake, that are having problems with some of the funding that's coming down from IHS, or just getting that wave that comes down to them through this COVID, is like, so these are things that we as a nation, I think these are things that we have to be proactive on, and like we already seen earlier this year that in the President's Green Book, that he already allocated the funds already for our project, for our staffing. So.
I don't think the FY21 budget is quite out yet, so I don't know if it's too, when that's going to be, or what decisions need to be made at that level.
They included that staffing in the request, and we just need to see if it's where it comes out of the final.
Okay. So it is included in the FY20,
They made the
2021, okay, request. Okay. So that is in there, and yes. So the other thing too with the construction, of course, the longer we wait too with construction, and any construction, prices go up, and I think it's a good way to, just talking off the cuff here, as far as construction or any kind of services and stable employment during this pandemic is also helpful, or would be helpful, in sustaining some of our economic development, stability, financial stability within our community.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a
Yes, please.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for coming to White Earth Nation today. And if you don't already know who I am, I'm Alan Roy, Secretary Treasurer of White Earth Nation. We appreciate the hard work that you've done on behalf of our people, and working towards improving the lives of the people that live here. We're very appreciative of the expansion that you've done at the clinic just right down the street. It's going to be very good for our people. It's going to be very good for our families, and then the only questions that I have is just a few at home. On your project budget and ROI, you guys discussed return on investment. And so the question I have, and I don't need an answer right now, maybe you can give it to me later. You guys discussed $16 million initial investment, and that will result in 20 years at $6.5 million from the feds, which is equivalent to $130 million. Now that's probably gross revenue for the tribe. The question I have is what would be the net revenue? So certainly that's money coming in, but what is the tribe going to actually make? We're not going to make $130 million. So that's not an entirely accurate ROI. ROI would be what are we going to actually make money off of that, right? So
that figure is based on the $4.5 million is salaries. The other $2 million to make up that $6.5 million would be equipment funding, M&I dollars, and facility support account funding. So facility support account funding is what keeps the lights on, pays the electric bill. Those are the funds appropriated for maintenance and improvement dollars are allocated there, and then equipment dollars obviously monies that come in to update and buy new equipment every year.
So that's not really revenue for the tribe, right?
No.
Okay.
It's money to run that.
Money to run the facility, yeah.
And which a lot of it is salaries for those employees at the clinic.
So what would be what would be the true ROI for the tribe?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, so I'll let you guys go back to the drawing board and find that answer. Okay, it's really important for me to know that, so.
Yeah, Secretary Treasurer, thank you. I would say the revenue on top of that. So if you look at where we're at now, we have 27% of our budget that's funded by Indian Health Service.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it, we have to, supplement it with the revenue. But we do have carryover. So if you want to look at that in that way. So when we're in the government mindset, we don't look at profit because we're not allowed to profit as a government entity. So with the tribe, you can see that carryover from revenue as a way to invest in further into the healthcare facility and its operations. So when I said when we expand, so we have the 44 staff right now that's going to be funded, so it's the money's there, you have that, and that's what you need in healthcare, so any profit, you would have to have that revenue go back in because it's a regulation. You would have to have that revenue come back into the services to sustain, what you have, or to expand what you have, increase. So you could say, well, we're going to use this carryover to buy a new medical transportation bus, or cars. So that's, you would just use that money. So per se, it's not a profit or a return on investment, but your carryover would in your revenues. We have seen the 27% increase in revenues from just what we have now out there at Nato Wash, and we're using that carryover to expand, and for example, Rice Lake, we can use that revenue to expand, some services to Rice Lake. So that's how I look at it as a return on investment, is that we're returning it back into the community through services or increased access or additional specialty services. Like if we want to bring out OBGYN or an oral surgeon, I'm just using that as an example.
That's a great, thank you for that so much. To my understanding, these would be considered restricted funds. They have to be used for health-related purposes, whatever revenues that are generated or carryover, as you would call it. I understand that very, very clearly. The question then is how much of that carryover can we anticipate? That's the true ROI that I'm looking for. Because when I look at it right now, you're asking what's being asked of the tribe is we would invest unrestricted funds, $16 million worth, potentially, depending on the funding model, possibly millions of unrestricted dollars of the tribe's money, which then converts into restricted funds, so we can't access those dollars anymore. They have to be used for specified purposes. And so that's why that number is important to me, because I want to know, like, if I'm going to put $2 million or whatever it's going to be, for example, $2 million of unrestricted funds into it, is that something that we can do from a general fund standpoint from the tribe's perspective. That's why I want to know what that number is. The other question I have, Mr. Chairman, you had discussed the Rice Lake area, and I'd like, there's just two questions. Could you clarify the type of services we can expect there? And then the question after that, the question for Scott is to elaborate a little bit more on the funding that was approved just last week.
Okay, Mr. Chair, Secretary Treasurer, thank you. As it stands right now, existing services, with no expansion or any, or not expansion, excuse me, no facility, new facility. Our commitment is to do at least one day, to start off with one day to see what the demand is at Rice Lake. So we would have a physician, probably 2 nurses, some pharmacy, not a pharmacist, but we would have some medications that we bring with us. So we'd do some pre-visit planning, like if we had, say, 10 appointments that day out at Rice Lake, we would bring their medications to them. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have any lab, so if there was any labs that need to be done, they could do it the next day or same day, or any x-rays. So it would be probably most likely for just a regular physician visit, no urgent care. And I don't know if there's an ambulance out there. So there's some uncertainties for me as far as what's available out there in Rice Lake, as far as is there an EMS if somebody does come say, oh, the doctor's here today, let's go over there, because patients will do that. You hear things, and that's okay, so we're not expecting, an urgent care matter to appear at Rice Lake. We just want to know what the resources are available out there. So so we can triage them and properly transport them if we have to, but it would be limited.
So I'm a lay person. Mm-hmm. So when you tell me the types of services that would be provided in Rice Lake, what would those services be specifically? So for example, I get a sick kid. Mm-hmm. I bring them over there. What sort of level of care can that parent expect their kid?
Absolutely. So thank you, Mr. Chair, Secretary Treasurer. I anticipate that a sick kid comes in, absolutely we would carry some antibiotics with us if if an antibiotic is needed. So the physician would be there, you would have a nurse there, and security would be there, just because we'd be transporting medications. But you would have at least 2 nurses and 1 physician. We haven't really hashed out the real details of it, because we were trying to work on the facility part first and the approval of the renovation. So we haven't really discussed in detail how much staffing we'll have, but you will definitely have a physician out there and a couple nurses and some antibiotics that we would transport.
And so you had made a comment during your briefing that some services may not be available at Rice Lake. However, they may go to White Earth or Nate-Hot-Wash to receive some of those services that may not be available in the village. And so the question I have is longevity. Mm-hmm. How long, if we get Rice Lake started, how long will that practice be there?
I would say indefinitely. Why not? It would be an extension. It would be like what we would call an Indian Health Service, a health station. We do Pine Point in that same manner. It's 2 days a week right now. And who's to say that we wouldn't expand some of the services out at Pine Point as well? I was there, where did we go, the other day. We were at Pine Point yesterday, or the other day, and we're open, it's my understanding we're open right now 2 days a week. There's no question, as to why wouldn't we open for 3 days a week, So the same question applies to Rice Lake. Why wouldn't we? It would be indefinite.
Okay.
Yes.
That's important.
Absolutely.
Just a few more comments, Mr. Chair. If I could just go, Ray. Yeah.
I have to give a comment.
Okay.
So excuse me, But what I'm hearing, so then it would be more or less just a Band-Aid for District 1 then, right? Sounds like to me, you know, we got this epidemic going on. We got ODs taking place, and here we are talking about $16 million for a clinic to be built in Nadawash. We got a $16 million building sitting there doing nothing right now that was supposed to be open back in May. And now they don't even know if they can use the whole building. But yet they're going to go build now another $16 million building in Nadawash. You know, what about District 1? We have never had a clinic up here. We don't really have nothing up here. And the people are upset about that. And I hear all this talk, oh, we're going to do this for District 1, do this, but it never gets put in reality, you know? And I am just getting sick and tired of hearing about all this stuff about, oh, we're going to do this for right District 1. And I'm not just saying Rice Lake, because I'm saying District 1, which includes Bijou, Bolio, Ebro, Rice Lake, South Bend. I mean, we all exist up here, you know? And we might be the smallest district on here, but why give us only a Band-Aid, you know? Some place we can go sit and say, okay, we're going to have to send you to Nadawash, or we're going to have to send you to Whiter. I mean, come on, give me a break. You're already talking about 3 days in Pine Point. You're only going to give Rice Lake 1 day or District 1? I mean, my God, I mean, we got ODs happening right now. Some of this money could be used for that. Right now, we're hurting for Rural 25 workers because a lot of people aren't getting Rural 25. I just got a message this morning that was meant for Mike and I and Martha and Clinton Alexander, and Martha did answer on it. But, I mean, come on. I mean, when you say healthcare, give us a break and give us something up here that we can at least look at, you know? I mean, to go in there and get looked at and say, oh, you got to go to Nadawash. Well, hell, I could have went to Nadawash in the first place. And if you look at it, if you were to put that building up here in District 1, we would get all of Bemidji, Bagley, Clearbrook, Condit, all our ones that are all going to Nadawash, and all that, I mean, not Nadawash, but all going to Beach Lake, to the IHS over there, and they're getting money that we could be using right here because that's too far for them to go Nadawash or Whiter. I mean, you know, I'm about ready to tell people just to give up on this clinic because, you know, I never promised it in the first place, but when it came up, I thought, okay, let's see what we can do. But all I've been doing is getting doors shut in my face and more or less shut down and go put a Band-Aid up here. You can go see a doctor and he's going to tell you, go to NATO. So I just don't see it. I mean, I really don't. That's just my feeling, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ray.
I could ask Mr. Scott to clarify what the funding allows for.
Okay, so we had originally gotten an estimate of maybe up to $100,000 to do some remodeling at Rice Lake, to add some sinks, so we'd have to add water and sewer line coming from a shower room. Have to pave the lot, and put equipment in. And we talked about it, and I think Pete, you guys went out there again and you made a final assessment, and that came out at about $104,000 to do how many rooms?
We looked at 3 rooms. So one would be kind of a triage registration room, an exam room, and a kind of a provider office touchdown area. Those are 3 rooms that are currently available in the space, and as Scott has mentioned, tying the water and sewer in from the nearby bathrooms. So that's the area that we looked at recently.
So the estimate has come in at $104,000. We originally thought maybe 100. So in the CARES resolution number 3 last week, and when we had talked to IHS, and Dan Fry and the rest of them, they felt that they would support this project at the extent of 50%, and we would support the other 50% of the cost to get it ready to go. So we put in on the health resolution relating directly to this Rice Lake remodel, $50,000 in resolution number 3 last week, which has been approved. So from a standpoint of money approval, and IHS, we're ready to move forward with that construction remodel as soon as council says, yes, do it.
I mean, just, I don't need an answer right now, Ms. Clark, but, it would be very productive, progressive if there was a consideration to expand services more than what has been proposed for Rice Lake. I think that's really important, as you've heard from the District 1 representative. Moving along to your timeline for contractor selection on March 2021, the problem White Earth has right now, and it's the elephant in the room, is that we have, it's the whole country for that matter, as you said, the economy, jobs. We've suffered many layoffs. We've suffered a lot of revenue being lost at our casino. We've lost a lot of, we need to rebuild, is what I'm trying to say. We need to start from somewhere. And so, and you also mentioned creating jobs, okay? That speaks to me very loud and clearly, because we are in a situation right now where there's over 500 people that have been laid off in the tribe. And as a result of that, these folks are going to be looking for work. Unfortunately, we have to catch up our revenue sources on the tribal side in order to bring these people back. So the question becomes, is where are these people going to go to work? Okay. And that's where this contractor selection becomes really important, because that means jobs, right, on the reservation. That means people going to work. That means people feeding their families. That means people doing, on top of all the good stuff you've already discussed, but, also it does speak to the economy that's happening. And so I like the idea of rebuilding the economy and creating shovel-ready jobs. I think that's good. I think that's necessity is the mother of all innovation and decisions. The only questions I have for the group is, with that caveat in mind, Mr. Chair, I see this as a feasible project because of all the things that you have discussed, but also because of the issues surrounding the economy, and we've got to start rebuilding, and we've got to start putting people back to work. There's no way around it. It has to happen sooner than probably later. And we've tasked our economic development team with, under enterprises, with starting construction companies, starting working with our small business contractors on the reservation, taking care of our local businesses. That's where we need to start. And I don't know the process. I mean, you guys got a FAR. I don't know what level of involvement the tribe has on that. But we got to get these small businesses ramped up. We got to get them engaged. We got to start putting people back to work. And I'm hoping the governor frees up this $17 million, and that's going to also create other opportunities for us to pursue other capital improvement projects. And so I know Scott and them have been working on that list, and we need to see that list. And I would like to make a decision on this project, probably, was it the 24th, if possible, Mr. Chair? I'd like to get all these things green lighted, if we can, Mr. Chair. All these, not just this project, but these other projects. We need to get these projects green lighted, because it has to happen. We need a consolidated budget and schedule. And I know you guys are going to be requesting a feasibility study again, more than likely, because of the costs rising for the materials, etc. And so if we could, Mr. Chair, have every project ready to review and to possibly approve, on the 24th, if permitted, Mr. Chair. We gotta get people back to work. It has to happen.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, Treasurer, you know, when I said one day a week for Rice Lake, it was as we exist today. I see a lot more happening with, with the whole project going through and being completed in the next few years. Just so many things happening, in the positive, very positive.
Well, this is a step forward instead of a step backwards.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that's good for considering we're in a pandemic. Absolutely.
At least it's a start.
It's a positive, yes.
And this is our fourth or fifth year on this project here. Kind of our clock is kind of ticking away too, isn't it? So we have like probably about, I don't know how much time we have left to make a decision on this, because if we don't make a decision, we lose all that funding. And joint venture doesn't come around, and it's not going to be in our lifetime again.
It's a competitive process. To speak a little bit earlier, Mr. Secretary, you're asking about rate of return, return on investment. There's like $750,000 in annual staffing reimbursement for public health nursing and behavioral health, but besides that, and that's on an annual basis. That doesn't, after 20 years, that doesn't come to $16 million. But I think the way to look at this, from my perspective anyway, is it's a partnership between the tribe and IHS, and the tribe builds the building for $60 million, and IHS provides staffing dollars for 20 years. Well, the 20 years is on the books. Like I'm sure Todd Schofield alluded to in a few of his meetings when he was here. There really is no, we don't ever see it cutting off. I mean, but 20 years of it's still $130 million. And so there really isn't, there isn't a profit margin built in there for how to reinvest in the tribe. It's more of an investment in the healthcare for this particular geographical area. Now, if you take a look at what we have in White now, as far as usable space, we have 55,000 square feet. With the current addition going on there, the expansion, we're adding another 33,000 square feet, and if NATO Wash comes to life, that's an additional 30,000 square feet. We're practically doubling the amount of healthcare facility space we have on the White Reservation, and so that's something that is going to help us for next generations to come. So we see it as a win-win. We see it as a great partnership between us. So I really don't know how to answer your question as far as return on investment.
Part of not everything can be measured in dollars and cents.
Absolutely.
And some of these things can't be measured in dollars and cents. Sometimes it's knowing that you can get health care. Sometimes it's knowing that you have that peace of mind. Sometimes it's knowing that you can get help when you need it. And those have indirect, you know what I mean? That affects the community. That affects our nation. But it'd be nice to own the Rice Lake.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Well, I hear health care for all, I hear that quite a bit lately. But yet, you're adding on a new phase down in White Earth, and now you're gonna add a bigger one up in Nadawash. And here we sit up in District 1, and we're gonna get a Band-Aid up here where we can go and get told to be sent to White Earth or Nadawash. Why couldn't we just take some of that money? I mean, you're building on a big part on the White Earth already. Why couldn't we take some of that money and split between Nadawash, Rice Lake, and Ponsford and upgrade our, then we'd have health care for all, But instead, District 1 again is being put out again. But that's nothing unusual from what I've seen since I've been in this office. District 1 don't really get a whole hell of a lot unless somebody hollers and bitches around, something like I gotta do at times. But I'm just getting tired of hearing this health care for all, health care for all. Well, I'm sick and tired of hearing about it because we're not getting health care for all, especially District 1. We're getting a shaft up here as usual. I mean, that's my feeling, Mr. Chair. I mean, you yourself said that health care for all. okay, we're gonna put a one-day clinic up here where I can go in there, see the doctor, and they're gonna say, oh, we're gonna have to send you to Nadawas or Waiter. No, big deal, you know? I could went to Waiter for Nadawas for that then. I mean, come on, give us a break up here in District 1. All these other districts got clinics up there and stuff they can go to. Oh, no, not us up here though. We've been waiting for years. We've been battling for years. And I guess I'm the only one that's really taking it on ever since then, but it doesn't look like it's gonna be a good deal after all. So I guess I will leave that up to the council. I mean, you guys decide what you want.
Ray, I guess the comment I have is historical. I know IHS awarded this back in 2016. I guess what IHS assessed is that the Nadawas Clinic was the oldest clinic in the United States. So when the council at the time advocated for Nadawas because of the age of that clinic, and they were awarded a joint venture. Because like you said, we said earlier, probably many meetings, is that joint venture doesn't come around to tribes at all. I mean, it takes a big. But
Mr. Chair, all this clinic, but they just redid that clinic over there. For how much money here? About 2-3 years ago, if not longer. I mean, they just remodeled that whole clinic.
We don't have much room in that.
Don't you think some of that money could have come up here in District 1?
But yeah, we could. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Ray, I mean, if you do a little research on joint venture, it's a joint between IHS and the tribe. They're giving us $130 million to build this, and that's what happens. I mean, if we, you know, we are going to expand towards Rice Lake, but we have to get this project going. This is one of the things that's probably we can get them going simultaneously. But when you're awarded $130 million from the IHS to build a clinic, you know, there's something, because we at the time in 2016 when it got awarded, it was because of the age of our Nadawas clinic. And I know if we take it back off the books, if we withdraw Nadawas from this joint venture, it's done forever probably. And if we try to go after District 1, Bagley joint venture, what would happen?
We'd have to relook at the master planning to proceed.
Yeah.
It would delay us.
How many years would it take us?
It would take us a number. We started the master planning on this back in 11 and 12. And so, you know, at that time, you know, healthcare was looked at as a whole. It was looked at from all the districts and for the entire service population. And there were many meetings on it. That kind of developed where maybe to put some of these resources and to develop these, and one of them being the Nadawas Joint Venture Program, or the Nadawas.
So I guess what I'm hearing then is healthcare for all only pertains to District 3 and District 2.
No, that is not what.
If you're gonna go with Nadawas, then that means it's gonna take, what, another 10-20 years before District 1 even gets anything, or gets maybe even a one-day clinic where we can get a Band-Aid and get told that you have to go to Nadawas or Rice Lake.
We're proposing, Raymond, you know, we already agreed to that.
You can build your own clinic as far as I'm concerned.
We started in 2012. It ain't like we started.
I mean, it's we're willing to do something in Rice Lake up there for, like you said, for the one-day thing. At least it's a step forward. With carryover money we get out of the other clinic, that money can be put into the Rice Lake facility to add more days and more facility there, or whatever is needed, right?
Services, yeah, more services.
I mean, it's better than not having nothing. At least if they're starting with one step forward, like I said, with the one-day one, and the carryover can always go towards more, you know, services and facilities up there. I mean, it's better than not having nothing to start off with, at least. That's my opinion.
And we could do the same thing with Pine
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we could expand them all.
Yeah.
It's creating jobs. We need to get to work, you know.
There's so much potential here. Just, and even when you just look at your own communities and how much potential you have, and looking to the future, even in the next 5 years, so much can happen in the positive, you know. So getting there is going to be awesome, once we get there, it's like, you'll be able to see this in the next 5 years. I really can guarantee you'll see some positive outcomes moving forward, basically the money is guaranteed, and as far as once we get it built, that money is going to be coming in for the staffing and everything, and then the visits and then the revenue, and it's a win-win, as everybody's saying, so.
Like I said, can you guys come back?
Absolutely.
Next week and say how we're gonna grow Rice Lake, how we're gonna grow Pine Point, and immediately, not like 2-3 years, but this is how we're gonna put people to work in Rice Lake and Pine Point. This is how we're gonna expand the services. This is how we're gonna do that. And here's a timeline, here's a budget, and here's a resolution. If you guys could bring that before the 24th, hell, that'd even solve a lot more problems. The other thing, and Mr. Chair, it'd be nice if we could put out a joint statement amongst the council that we are looking at creating more jobs today. We're looking at greenlighting a lot of projects on the 24th, and we're ready to get back to work. And maybe we need to start revisiting our casino stuff over there too, so.
Just aside, Mr. Chair, and council members, I hear the 500 unemployed, we won't be able to scrape, hardly any, but we are looking at possibly a contract with the tribe to bring back some of those furloughed employees to work for us through an arrangement between IHS and the tribe, but I haven't heard anything. I know you all have been busy too, but I just wanted to say there's that opportunity that it's not a lot, maybe 5 to 10 people, but it's something, that we can start with.
Yeah, very much. Thank you guys. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
I will mention too, for promoting, we're OEHE, DSFC, Division of Sanitation Facilities Construction, has an advertisement out for 3 engineering technicians. We're having a hard time finding those. So if you know of any qualified applicants looking for engineering technician jobs, the advertisement is out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You want to take a break now?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll take a break, 10-minute break.
I locked up. I gotta move on.